We are here from Hollywood Smoke for another edition of 10 Count. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Michael Rosenthal and Doug Fisher. Gentlemen, we know this. Sometime in November, Cotto against Canelo is going to happen November 7th or the 21st. Could be at the Thomas & Mack, could be at the MGM Grand. Michael, you can wave a magic wand. You're a very influential guy. When and where would you like this fight to take place?
I think it's got to be at the MGM Grand. I think those of us who have covered fights in both places, Thomas & Mack isn't the nicest place to cover a fight. The MGM's got it all together. I don't think it should be in New York, which would maybe be an advantage to Cotto. I don't think it should be in LA or Texas because it'd be an advantage for Canelo. I think Vegas is the perfect spot, and it's going to be an enormous fight, so it makes sense anyway.
Doug, we've been to the Thomas & Mack. Getting there for the media is fine. Problem is, logistically for the fans, I think it's a nightmare. I know they're getting Uber in the city of Vegas soon, but you literally have to wait 90 minutes just to get a cab just to go back to the Strip.
I don't like the arena, though. Even once inside the Thomas & Mack Center, the way it's configured, it's not one of those arenas that's sort of intimately configured. It doesn't feel like you're right on top of the ring. It seems like you're separate. You're kind of far away from the ring unless you're on the floor or whatever. I've never enjoyed covering fights at the Thomas & Mack. I mean, the logistics of it are a nightmare, just getting to the arena. But once you're inside the arena, something about that atmosphere, it never matched the atmosphere that I felt inside the event center, which is much smaller, at Mandalay Bay or the MGM Grand.
Yeah, Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon take great umbrage to what you just
basketball,
said.
Hey, listen, basketball, it's fine. I'm saying for boxing, it's just something about it. It just seems removed, too far removed.
You know, the disappointing fact is that I think Canelo would want this fight in Texas Stadium, Dallas Cowboy, Jerry's World, or the Alamo Dome, where I think they could do 50, 60,000 if you price it correctly. But this is just another example, and Larry Merchant said this for years. He goes, Steve, follow the money. That this really is not done for the fans. And I think that's a shame. I think based on what happened with May 2nd, where the average fan was basically excluded. There was a velvet rope. They were not allowed to cross. There was a list, and a big bouncer said, get out of here. And I thought this was the one event that could almost make it up for the fans. But Doug, as we know, it's never for the fans.
Yeah, but if ever there was a stadium fight, I think it would be Cotto-Canelo. And, I don't put it past Canelo to allow the fight to take place in New York City. Obviously, that's Miguel Cotto's domain, but he is the defending middleweight champion. He is the veteran. If there is an A side in this fight, and there really isn't, but maybe it's an A side Cotto, A- side Canelo, but I think Team Canelo and probably Golden Boy Promotions, I think that they would want to test the waters on the East Coast with Canelo. I think that they would want to test Canelo's buying power, ticket earning power in New York City.
You know what really excludes New York are the state taxes. Right. I've been told right there off the top that kind of puts them out of the
But think about it, Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, Cotto fought Yuri Foreman at Yankee Stadium and did decent.
About
about 27,000 with Canelo. That was Yuri Foreman. Yeah, imagine Cotto now against Canelo Alvarez. You're absolutely right. It could be 50,000+ in any venue that can hold that much.
Is there a more anticipated fight in the second half of 2015 than Saul Alvarez against Miguel Cotto?
No, nothing's even close. I think it's a huge fight. No, nothing's even close. And you're going to get a good fight, unlike May 2nd.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. It's actually going to be a fight. And guys, this fight, according to Dan Rafael, will be contested at the Cotto weight of 155 pounds. Can I listen from a competitive standpoint? This is not Daniel Geale being sucked down. It's a fair fight. I don't have an issue with that. But the other real problematic issue with catchweight is they're becoming shelters to hide from guys like Gennady Golovkin. It's like you can call yourself a middleweight champion because the BC and the linear belt's on the line. But this is another way of hiding from the boogeyman, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, technically anything over 154 pounds is middleweight. But what we have are two well-known junior middleweights, former junior middleweight champs, fighting for the Lineal, Ring Magazine, and WBC middleweight championship. And I think right now, neither guy really fits in the plans of facing all of the top middleweights in the world. Now, if Canelo wins, and I expect him to win, because Canelo's a guy, he can make 155 pounds and then rehydrate into a very strong 165 or 166, 67 pounds, as he did against James Kirkland, and he looked very sharp and quick and powerful against Kirkland. If he wins, yeah, I can see him eventually facing the likes of Triple G or David Lemieux, but not right away. I mean, I think, whoever wins this fight, I think they will be the lineal middleweight champ, but they will probably continue to fight closer to the junior middleweight division. And that's just weird. That's just wrong.
Yeah,
if you're going to be the champ, you need to defend that title against the top middleweights. Well,
Michael, you guys do ratings for years, Ring Magazine ratings, and you guys have your own belt. At what point can you or do you say, wait a minute, this is ridiculous? There's a guy like Adonis Stevenson who hasn't done as much as a Sergey Kovalev. You have the Kovalev situation. Then you have the Golovkin situation, where I think guys are consciously avoiding making up their own weight classes. Do you guys just go with the hard, fast, black and white rule? You have to beat the guy, that there is no variables involved?
Yeah, you mentioned Adonis Stevenson. He beat the guy, so he's champion. And now most of us think Kovalev's better at this point, but what happened. That it sort of is what it is.
We do have a rule, though, where if you don't, in a 2-year period, defend your title against a top 5 contender from any weight class, you can be stripped of the belt. And that's why Andre Ward lost his belt, because he was out due to legal issues or whatever, and it came to a point where he hadn't defended his title against a top 5 contender since he faced
Chad
Dawson, right, in 2012. So the belt was declared vacant. That is something that could happen with Adonis Stevenson. It's not something that would happen with Miguel Cotto yet. I'm not quite sure where Daniel Gill was ranked, but my point is, you can't cherry pick with the ring title. Maybe you can hold on to the WB title forever or whatever, but you can't cherry pick for too long and expect to hold on to the ring title.
Well, on that note, before we wrap it up, Tom Loeffler, he's of the belief that Mauricio Sulaiman, that if there's not a step-aside fee, which I'm not so sure Golovkin's going to take, they want that belt, that if there is not a promise that's going to be kept, and again, this is boxing, people change their minds,
right,
that Tom, as of last week, was still saying, Steve, Canelo, Cotto, as of right now, I don't care when they sign it, where they fight, how they fight, will not be for the WBC title. That belt will be Gennady Golovkin. So look out for further details. All right, well, that's it for this edition of 10 Count. For Michael Rosenthal and Doug Fischer, this is Steve Kim saying, till the next round, goodbye, everybody.